Rick Dollar here for the Rick Dollar Show. And if you can't get us on our 22 affiliates across the US and Canada, just tap on the old iHeartRadio app, and there we will be. My host today, or my host, yeah, I can say you're my co host today, Miss Molly Tuttle. How are you, Molly?
Oh, I'm good. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. Um, you kind of had a great beginning to the year with the IBMA Awards. You co-hosted the awards with Catch from everybody knows who that dude is. But how did that go? Did you enjoy that or?
Yeah, we both had so much fun. Um it was just a cool experience because I remember going to the award show as a kid with my parents. I did this thing when I was like 11 years old. It was like the Bluegrass kids on stage thing,
Right.
IBMA. I think they still do a version of that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where I met like Sierra Hull, Sarah Giroux, so many people who they're my peers and still collaborate with. And so I remember going as a kid to the award show and just being in awe. It seemed like the coolest night in Bluegrass. And so it was amazing to be the host. And I think just for me, looking back, even like 5 or 6 years, that would have been really scary for me. I'm not like a natural public speaker, but it was cool to kind of look back and feel like, oh, yeah, I got this. I feel like I've kind of matured in a way and gained more confidence on stage. And I was able to just like relax and have fun. It was so fun to do it with Ketch as well, because he's a great kind of great entertainer, great writer. They gave us a few moments to like have our own liberties with the speech and like kind of let out our own
Exactly.
personalities in a way, which was fun.
Well, I mean, it's you did a great job for somebody that's never done or haven't done a lot of those kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, I've presented awards before, just like one-off things, but I'd never
Right.
been like the main kind of host for an evening like that, it was awesome. I want to do it again.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think you'll have a problem with getting that phone call, believe me. It was a hoot and a holler, let me tell you. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it
But
was a lot of fun.
let's talk about some of your records here. Now, Crooked Tree, of course, won a Grammy and IBMA Album of the Year this year. And
Mhm.
you know, City of Gold is probably, I think, one of your more matured records, I'd say. I can see you moving into a different aspect of songwriting and things that you
Mhm.
do. So,
Yeah, thank
but
you.
what's your favorite tune on that record that you did? I mean, I've got a couple, but I'm not going to take up all your time with my what I like. So,
On City of Gold.
yeah.
I think my favorite, the one I'm like really proud of is El Dorado because it was so hard to write. And
Hmm.
Ketch and I wrote that one together, and we set out to write like a kind of Bob Dylan type song with a bunch of verses. And it was actually inspired by a Bob Dylan song called The Days of 49, which is all about like
Right.
this kind of gold rush town. And it has a million verses, a million different characters. So we kind of wanted to write our own spin on that one. And it took a long time. It was really hard, and we wrote so many verses. Some of them we didn't end up using, but that's kind of the only song I've ever written like that it kind of we weren't concerned about like just like condensing the song into like a three verse and a chorus kind of thing. We wanted it to be
Right.
like this long saga, I guess.
Well, I think what you guys did, I mean, let's just talk about Golden Highway for a second here. I mean, what a lineup. I mean, it's that's got to be
Oh,
like your dream team if you were going to make a record and
totally.
tour with some people. That's them right there, man.
Yeah, they're so amazing. And we've only been a band now for under 2 years. We started touring January of 2022.
Hmm.
And so it still feels really fresh, and it's really exciting and cool to look back on last 2 years and see how far we've come, how much we've accomplished. But yeah, it all started out just because we've all been friends with each other for years and years through playing bluegrass and being on the scene. And so it felt really natural to kind of come together as a band.
Oh yeah, and that you have accomplished, no doubt about that.
Mhm.
But now Yosemite was one of the releases that have come off that record. You did that with Dave Matthews, and
Yeah.
can you give me like a little backstory of how that song came about?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, that one I wrote, inspired by kind of like a road trip, I guess, where you like get in the car and then you're like, wait, I'm gonna be stuck with this person or these people for like in this tiny car for a long time. And I've experienced that in relationships. I've experienced that in like bands that I've been in where you get set out on a long tour and you're like, oh God. And then it
Am I
was
going to
also
be able
kind
to
of
do
just
this?
yeah. And I mean, I had like family road trips to Yosemite as a kid all the time. So, all those things kind of went together to make that song. And Ketch and I wrote it as a duet where we imagine it being like a back and forth between a couple. Um, and I was just thinking like, well, who would be like my dream collaborator? And we did a show with Dave Matthews in February of the year before last.
Right.
Down in Mexico, we opened for him and got to know him a little bit. Then I kind of sat in with him another time last spring. And so I was just like, well, I have Dave's number because he asked me to sit in with him. We texted a
Yeah.
little back and forth, and I'm just gonna send him the song, see what happens. He'll probably be like, "Oh God, why does she even have my phone number?"
Why is she doing this?
But he's such a nice guy, and he right away responded and was like, "Sure, I'd love to." And since then, we got to open for him at the Gorge
Oh,
in
wow.
Washington, which was so cool. And he
Mhm.
sat in with us during our opening set and played Yosemite with us, which I've never like experienced that as like an opening act, having the main
Yeah.
dude like come in and play in your set, which was really cool and just kind of a testament to how supportive he is and what a nice guy he is.
Do you ever get butterflies with people that you play music with?
Yeah, I get kind of like nervous or just like someone like that. I'm just like, whoa, you're like, I kind of grew up hearing your voice everywhere, and then it's like surreal to hear it
Exactly.
singing one of my songs. But I think like the more I've gotten to kind of meet some of those musical heroes, most of them are just so insanely down to earth and
Really
nice.
cool people. Just
Yeah,
yeah.
totally.
I mean, that's and same thing with what I've done. I've done this for like 12 years, but you know,
Yeah.
you run into people and you're thinking, "Oh my gosh." I remember the first time I interviewed Doyle Lawson. I
Hmm.
was completely petrified. And
Yeah.
I was friends with his manager, and I called his manager, and he's like, dude, just go in there, talk to him like you're talking to me, just let it go.
I know. I think because
But
like we all play music and so much a big part of like what we do is meeting other people and
mhm.
collaborating. If you're not a nice or approachable person, it's probably hard to like really do this for a living.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. Now one of my favorite songs, like I told you, is Stranger Things. We were talking about this before. Do you have like a backstory for that one?
Yeah, that one, I mean, I guess it kind of came about just that was probably the oldest song that ended up on City of Gold. I wrote that like early on in the pandemic, like
Mhm.
mid 2020. I think I was, we were all kind of binging TV shows during that time. I was probably
Oh
binging
yeah.
the show Stranger Things. And we just thought that would be like a cool title for a song. I wanted to write kind of like a spooky, almost like supernatural type song. I think we wrote it around Halloween. But that's become like a fun one in the show because it's so different from anything we do. And I hadn't written it along with the other batch of songs that ended up on the album. It was one from years ago that I went back through like my archive of old songs and I was like, hey, this one could actually, kind of fit into the album. I imagined it pairing with Alice in the Bluegrass
Oh
because they
yeah.
both kind of about going into this otherworldly place. And so that was the one like older song that we put on the album, and I think that um makes it have like a totally different feel from the rest of the songs that I wrote,
Mhm.
envisioning the band playing them and envisioning playing them in our set and playing them as a bluegrass band. So um yeah, I think that one, I don't know exactly what inspired it, but just kind of wanting to have like a one of those haunting songs that sounds almost old, but is also a little bit more modern. And everyone in the band loves watching Stranger Things. Like,
Yeah, I did
we-
too. I mean,
yeah, sometimes like if we're on a bus or in a van with a TV on it, we'll throw that on the TV.
I got you. I got you.
But it's
Now,
not the story, I guess, isn't really inspired by the show, but the title is.
be good if they'd use it though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Now, how did you get into bluegrass?
I started playing bluegrass because my dad grew up playing bluegrass. And
Mm-hmm.
my dad grew up on a farm in Illinois, and my grandfather played the banjo. He passed away when I was in high school. But my grandfather loved bluegrass. He loved Platt Scruggs. He was
Mm-hmm.
actually in the Air Force, and he was stationed down south. I forget exactly where, but he heard Hank Williams play. He went out and bought a guitar. And then from kind of discovering like old country music, he discovered bluegrass and just became obsessed with, like the Stanley Brothers.
Oh yeah.
Ralph Stanley was one of my grandparents' favorite. They would go to bluegrass festivals all around Illinois and try to see him play. And my grandma's still around, and I visited her right when I was writing songs for Crooked Tree, and I told her like I'm thinking about making a bluegrass album, and she was so excited and was just like pulling out all her tapes. She was like a taper at these old bluegrass festivals and literally has tapes of like all these different sets from these festivals they would go to. So my dad grew up going
That's amazing.
to bluegrass festivals with his parents. They had like a family band. They didn't ever really play that many shows, but he moved out to California after college, just kind of randomly, and then found a little music store, Griffin Stringed Instruments, in Palo Alto, California,
Wow.
where he started teaching the banjo. He like walked in and started playing the banjo, and they were like, "Hey, they usually have like a banjo teacher here, like a few days a week, but he just quit. Would you like to teach the banjo?" And so my dad is kind of just stumbled into that and became like a full-time music teacher, and
Can
has
you
taught
can
so
you
many
just
people
are
in
you seeing the
California.
timing here that I'm seeing, you know?
Huh?
Are you seeing this timing that I mean, I can't believe how he would just randomly walk into this place,
Yes, it was
start
crazy
picking the
because
banjo, and then so many years later, look at what you're accomplishing, you know?
yeah, it's crazy because I think my dad like he's always loved music, but he had gotten like a degree in financial planning and was like applying for jobs as like
That's as anti bluegrass as you can get.
yeah. But it's kind of helpful to, as like a
Sure it is.
self-employed person, I'll call my dad like, how do I do this tax thing? I don't know
Yeah.
what I'm doing. So he's also very helpful with that.
By the way, can I borrow a few bucks?
Yeah, totally.
We need gas.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of things that have been said about you, but I think there was two quotes that I read about you that I think kind of size up the person and the musician that you are now. American songwriter, did a really nice little thing about you. One of the world's best guitar players. I mean, I know that sounds kind of random and kind of general, but I guess you're not seeing what we see on this end. um,
Oh,
but it's you're an amazing guitar player, uh,
thank you.
unreal songwriter, and
Mhm.
the success I think is going to keep coming. Just
Oh, thank
just with what you've got in the wheelhouse now, not
you.
counting Golden Highway. I mean, my gosh, that's you guys just have this synergy when you perform together. That's just ridiculous, and it kind of captivates a lot of people, and that's why the crowds are so big. But Billboard also did a little quote about City of Gold,
Mhm.
a vibrant blend of bluegrass with flashes of Old West. And that is so true and so important right there.
Mhm.
Anchored by Tuttle's earthy yet angelic vocals.
Mhm.
Earthy. Have you ever been called earthy before?
I don't know if I've gotten that word.
It's never gone that far, has it? The entire group has, they call it ace musicianship.
Yeah.
Now that wraps it up right there. And coming from Billboard, that's no
That's
small thing,
cool. Yeah,
That's
totally.
pretty great.
Yeah.
So what are you looking at as far as your future goes? You just going to keep doing this with you seem to be a person that kind of does what is supposed to happen now and what you feel is supposed to happen
Right.
now and not anybody else.
Yeah, I've tried to. I've definitely felt like, in the past, it's when you're first starting out, it's hard to do what you feel is right because it's
Hmm.
like you have these outside pressures. When I was first starting out, I was funding everything myself, and it was just like
Hmm.
overwhelming in a way. So I feel like the more I've kind of progressed in my career, the more freedom I've gotten to just do what I want, the more people like, trust you once you've had some success already, but I don't know exactly what's next. I think I'm gonna start writing songs again. We've had such a busy year. I've just been like trying to catch my breath now. I've been home for like a week and a half, which is rare for me, but pretty nice. So we're closing out the year with some hometown holiday shows. And then next year, we've got a lot of exciting stuff that hasn't been announced yet. Some great festivals are coming in, some shows with our fans who are friends of ours. That's going to be really fun. And then opening for some cool artists as well. Um, so yeah, another fun year of touring, but I know I'm supposed to be thinking about my next record, and I've started to think about it a little bit, but still
Right
trying to
now is
like
a good time just to
everything happen.
relax, though, and
Oh yeah, I know I'm trying.
I don't think you get that very often, though, do you?
I know, totally. That
Yeah.
was one thing about the pandemic, that even though it was like a scary time for so many reasons and it was hard to not be able to play any shows, it did give me time to like kind of rest and then feel really excited to go back and make an album and write songs and tour. So I'm just trying to like take a breather for a moment and then jump back into it.
I think you're going to do fine. I don't think that's going to be an issue. I did notice, you got those California dates that are
Mhm.
going to happen. And then starting January 10th, you're going to go across the big pond to the
Yeah.
UK. And
Yep.
how's that going to work out for you? Have you ever been there before? You ever
I
performed?
have. I was going over there a lot, and I haven't been since 2020. But I remember in 2019, I think I went over to the UK 3 times that year. So, and then I've been a few other times in the past as well. So I've been over quite a bunch, but it's been like 4 years since I've
Wow.
gone overseas at all. Besides doing a couple shows in Cancun, like opening for Dave Matthews and stuff. But yeah, I really haven't played outside the country since
That's
before the
terrible.
pandemic.
Cancun with Dave Matthews. I mean,
That was a
jeez.
terrible one-off.
So what's the
But yeah, I'm excited. I'm a little nervous because it's like I'm not used to the jet lag anymore. I feel like I was going overseas
yeah.
quite a bit, and I'm like, I'm scared. I don't know what to expect anymore. And like, you have to buy like the different phone charger for everywhere. And but I know I'll be over there with Tommy Emmanuel, and I'm opening for him, and I'll get to
Oh
jam with
wow.
him. So that's gonna make me feel better,
That's
and it's gonna
another terrible thing that's gonna happen. You
but I'm
you
excited to see those UK audiences are really fun, and
yeah.
it's always kind of mind-blowing how like this rootsy kind of bluegrass Americana music reaches overseas so well and people are so responsive to it.
I've heard so many people call you an ambassador to this music. And growing up in Tennessee where I did, my grandfather, when I was 10 years old, put in a Doyle Lawson okay, get this, 8-track in his truck. And that's when I first heard bluegrass music. There was
Yeah.
a festival there called Slagle's Pasture. This guy had a
Oh, cool.
huge cow pasture and he would just open it up once a year. And it was
Oh,
great. Everybody went there. But I think when you start out just hearing the basic old school stuff, I
yeah.
think it kind of gets the wheel rolling sometimes
Yeah,
because it
totally.
hit me like right in the chest. I
Hmm.
knew that in the future I was going to do something with
That's
this
cool.
music because I just liked it so much.
Yeah, totally. I think like I just heard kind of the old school type bluegrass stuff so much as a kid, and
Hmm.
for me, I remember it being like a little bit of an acquired taste. Like it took some time to grow on me, but then once I
Yeah.
got to it, I was like obsessed. And I think part of that was like going to festivals like you talked about and seeing people jamming and playing,
Hmm.
making friends. And it was so much fun. I remember as a kid, meeting other kids my age who played this type of music because nobody like at my school did that. But I'd go to a bluegrass festival and it was like this totally different world.
It is. I mean, it's and I think how you're being exposed to other things now, like you're talking about the UK audiences and how it's working around the world now. I really feel like things are just starting to gel a little more with
Mhm.
foreign audiences of
Yeah,
what's really happening here in the US.
yeah,
But
totally.
I'm hoping, I want this to grow because
Yeah.
I think it's a little late for it to grow for me because I feel like it should already be huge, like it already, bigger than it is. I'll put it that way. But
Yeah.
with people like you, Billy out doing what he's doing,
Mhm.
everybody else that's out there just burning it up
Yeah.
7, 8 days a week, trying to make this happen. And
Totally.
kudos to you guys because
Thanks.
yeah, that's it's got to be close to your heart, but you're also putting your own twist on things, and that is a major thing. I think because there are no two bunch of people out there doing this thing, the
Mhm.
same way. It's always
Yeah.
something different, and
Yeah.
what you've done and what things are happening with you right now. I mean, who knows what next year is going to hold? But
Yeah, I'm excited.
hopefully you'll be back at IBMA. That'll be good.
I know. Yeah, I've got to mark that down in my calendar.
Yeah, no, the Grammys are a big thing with you.
Yeah, well, suddenly, like last year was the first time I got to go, and it was so surreal. It was really cool. I was sitting down in the floor, like, and I could see like Taylor Swift on the next table. I was like, what's happening?
Instantly, you're a Swiftie.
I think I was frozen the whole time. I just like I couldn't even deal with what was going on. It was crazy.
It's nuts, man, to see those people, and they're like, "Hey, wait a minute, they're really just people."
I know. Yeah, it was insane.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down with us here at the Rick Dollar Show, and we will be talking to you again soon. Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me, Rick.
All right. Thanks, Molly.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.